And so it is.
And so it is.
Good choice.
Thank you, Catherine and all. We hold a lot, don't we? Beautiful community. We're going to have a responsive reading followed by a chant or a song. So the words to this, I will say the first part, and if and as you feel so moved, you say the part in italics. Or if you'd really rather just listen, that's fine too. This is a reminder. We touch the floor.
To remember that wherever we bring our best self is holy ground.
Holy ground. We reach for the sky.
To remember that we are part of a mystery much bigger than ourselves.
Mystery. We hold hands.
To remember that we need one another and are part of one human family.
Need and part of. We join voices.
To remember that we each have a gift to offer the world and to use it in making the world a better place.
Gifts and service. Thank you. Perhaps some of you know this next chant or song that we're going to sing today. In a way, it kind of revisits and expands on this reading that we just did because it references mystery, perhaps the great mystery that is life itself. It references community of all who are singing and or hearing this together today. And it references the reality that within community, struggle is real. And also that despite struggle, there is great power in community. It ends by invoking spirit, affirming that the singers had prepared themselves to be in a place in which spirit, and more on spirit in a minute, can be welcomed into the singer's heart. So here we are with this chant, gathered here. And please, you're welcome to sing along. The words will project on the screen. It goes through, I think, either 3 or 4 times. Thank you.
Show your daughter how much you love her with this beautiful.
Yes, do that. That was one of the best ads I've ever heard. So timely. So, here we are gathered, and we're thinking about our daughters and our sons and our people, our ancestors, maybe our ancestors of blood and our ancestors of culture, our ancestors of lineage. I'm supposed to do something. I'm supposed to do this twice.
HDMI 2.
Thank you.
Go, George.
I love George. Sadly, I don't always understand what he's saying. But that's how it goes. Am I good now?
Yeah,
I guess.
Okay.
I guess.
I guess. So, it's appropriate right now to continue maybe just for another day or two saying Happy New Year, it's a Happy Gregorian New Year, right? Gregorian New Year, because it's worth remembering that not everyone sees the world the way we do, okay? So for example, here on the Pacific Rim, we've gotten increasingly comfortable with the fact that sometime in early February, February 10th this year, we're going to be celebrating the Lunar New Year that is part of the celebration in many East Asian countries and Asian communities throughout the world. It begins on the first new moon on their calendar, which is a combined lunar and solar calendar. You know, every time I speak to you, I want to talk about where we are, and it always comes back to lunar and solar calendars. And that's a whole other thing. Maybe we'll do a whole service on that one time. But I do want to point out that most cultures create their calendars around either moon cycles or sun and moon cycles, often beginning with a new moon, but sometimes beginning with a full moon. January 25th was the new year for Mahayana Buddhism, or some Mahayana Buddhisms, more properly put. The first full moon in January. So when you add in the fact that Jewish cultures, the Hebrew calendar is also a mixed lunar solar calendar, as is the Hindu calendar, and the Islamic calendar is strictly lunar, with no reference to the sun whatsoever, which is why Ramadan and other things move around the calendar, because you know there are more moons than that in 365 and a quarter days, which is why all this, can I say mishigas? Goes on.
We understand, right?
Yep. You know, it's really quite astonishing that most of the world is running on this Gregorian calendar, a strictly solar calendar, which after all only originated in the 16th century with Pope Gregory the something, 13th I think, as a minor adaptation of this calendar that Julius Caesar instituted in order to make things orderly. And there were all kinds of political reasons about that. There's calendars and cultures and corrupt politics and abuses and stuff like that. But in the end, the Roman Emperor Julius Caesar, aided by a Greek astronomer, finally straightened out all this lunar solar funny business, forcing an orderliness on the calendar, which is now so orderly that in fact we who follow it easily lose track of hello moon cycles, right? Let alone their relationship to the solar rhythms and of solstice and equinox. But wait a minute, that's not strictly true, is it? Because half the world has bodies that fluctuate more or less in a monthly moon cycle, right? So for a significant part of our lives. But as many of us have found, keeping track of moons in a strictly solar calendar takes some doing. You have to pay attention, because if you don't happen to be watching the moon, it doesn't make any sense at all. Well, guess what? It turns out that other species don't have this problem. Lunar and solar rhythms determine a lot about the biology of many species. It determines migration patterns, reproductive rhythms have been found to respond to solar and lunar patterns. And this somehow, knowing this somehow captures our imagination. If it's some kind of new and magic, mystical thing, these magical cosmic rhythms that are not magic at all. In fact, they're very basic structural components of our world, these cosmic rhythms, that our non-human kin know so well, and that they have been responding to for most of their evolutionary lives, right? Whales and turtles, mayflies, badgers, nightjars, whippoorwills, salmon. Can it be possible that we humans, who are after all more than 70% water, are somehow exempt from these rhythms? that we have somehow transcended them because we're so clever with clocks and alarms and weird calendars and things that can buzz in your pocket, playing music at the most unlikely time, that inadvertently obscure, or maybe advertently obscure, fundamentals of our actual relationship to the cosmos. So I'm wondering today if, thinking about this, and we started off with the rhythms of the music, of the waves that Christine shared with us, and we're talking about cosmic and lunar rhythms. I wonder if you would be willing to do an experiment with me today. I live on consent, so if you're not, please feel free not to do this. What if, though, we were to imagine that we are gathering around a campfire, together, all of us, on a dark night when the moon is new and we can see all the stars? I wonder if you would be willing to take a bit of a journey with two questions. As we gather around, feeling the night air, knowing, believing, understanding that we are safe here together, maybe you will want to soften your gaze or close your eyes as we start to consider the first question. What is it that holds you? What or who holds you in times of trouble, in times of confusion, in times of joy? To what or to whom do you feel connected? What is there that is bigger than your own personal individual self, that is important in some way? Something that you feel connected to, even if ever so slightly, or someone. Is it a source? Is there a source, a companion? Perhaps a process, a journey, an entity that beckons you in some safe way? These are deep questions that can take more than a lifetime. You can be usefully explored for much of our lives. And the working answer to these questions of whose are we can shapeshift over time. They say that the big three religious questions are, who am I? What am I supposed to do? And how then shall I live? So perhaps you feel, as we do this investigation, more alone than connected. But if so, remember that you are here together with us by the campfire in the night, and there are beings of many different species around you. Some people say there are spirits. What moves you as you gaze up at the sky? What grounds you as you feel your feet, your sit bones on the ground? Do you feel a connection deep down to the earth and or up to the heavens? What we call the vertical component, as well as all of those beings around you. Perhaps you can move into those feelings, perhaps you move away from them. Whatever it is, it's perfectly fine. It's perfectly in tune with your needs. And anyway, we're on our way back now from the campfire, back to this room, where we are still sitting here, opening our eyes, and yet still gathered here together, still considering what holds me? Who or what holds me? Whose am I? Who do I belong along with. To what or to whom are we connected? And oddly enough, there might be many answers for any one of us. But what's for certain is that there are many answers among us. Now, remember as you return here from this investigation that we are here today as a Unitarian Universalist gathering. And one of our UU principles, the third one in fact, is to affirm and promote acceptance of one another and encouragement to spiritual growth within our congregations. Unitarian Universalists don't have one creed that we all are required to believe or understood to believe. We believe many different things, and sometimes all at the same time. What's true for us, which can and does change over time, is as a UU body, just as I encourage your spiritual growth, I rely on, I trust our shared commitment that you will encourage mine as well. So, understanding that, and to the extent to which it feels safe, and maybe even a bit comfortable or interesting or comforting, I now invite you to turn to one or two of your neighbors and perhaps share some of your thoughts that came up as you sat around the campfire. This is the consent piece. You don't have to do this, but if it feels good, if it feels right, perhaps you would share that with some of the people around you. To whom or what do you belong? And you may have many levels of answers. Let's see if it's possible to have some conversation for about 5 minutes.
I'll bring mine, the thought becomes my higher power.
Here you guys, Renee and I always talk. Renee.
I'll leave that. I'll leave that.
That's good that you got some
Oh, I What were you going to say, Diana? Well, I was going to say that all of my recovery stuff that was higher power, but I still really don't know
That's what I really
what or who my higher power is. I really don't have an answer. I really don't have an answer. Sometimes I feel like there's so much interconnection going on, but I feel like I don't belong.
because you have
I know it's weird, but just kind of like universal consciousness. Sometimes floating a little bit more in that direction, floating a little bit, you know what I mean? It's kind of not necessarily zoomed in, but it's just kind of aware. There's no report. There's no report.
sometimes you have all right. That's what I want. Like a lot of times it says, I'm surrounded by like minds and spirits. It's a constant but I'm mostly concentrating on the oh, so then we add them into the circle.
Right, energy sometimes.
Energy is so big, and it just feels just in my daily life, like I do a daily practice and feel like I feel the bitters and joy. It's just and that love is just. I love that idea of the campfire because it's like just to interject real quick, one of our favorite places is Sweden. I feel like, and one of the residents have a waterfalls, not just to each other, and into all the animals, the trees, rocks, the stars, the moon, the sun, and I have a tendency to feel really alone and isolated and kind of
I'm sure it's gonna go down. But I tend to kind of be like on part of everything, on the outside and everyone else is connected. So like when we sing that song, or we run it off, or now myself out into that. And what's really helpful, and I think it's we're all interconnected, and I want to connect collectively. Is they all are a tiny piece of the puzzle. And that's something that humans, yeah, and they give it, and that's something that humans often the psyche.
I think if anything, it's fun. And that was not easy. One time we were having a hard
This wasn't gonna work out. And that there would be dead silence. And it was like, oh wait, these are Unitarian Universalists. Okay, so, does anybody want to quickly share back one or two things that might have come up? Yes?
My biggest question at the campfire with everybody were the s'mores.
Where are the s'mores? Okay.
You have to ask for them.
So do you belong to chocolate? Yes?
I'd say the three of us came that it all boils down to love, and specifically unconditional love. And that includes not only this human experience, but all of the animals and even trees and plants and all that.
And the air, the winds, the waters, the rocks, the stones, the cosmos. Love, love. You know, it's interesting, as Unitarian Universalists, as we're now in this process of revising our principles, but this is a bylaws thing, but it's also theology, right? And what has happened is that the new thinking is that, you know what? It all centers love. We have love at the center. And we don't have a list anymore. We've got a flower petal arrangement with love at the center. So this sounds like we're all in the right place this morning. Anybody else want to share? Yeah.
I just felt that we're part of a universal consciousness. It's like we're in this whole sphere together, but the sphere is infinite. So the energy is with us infinitely so.
So this whole universal consciousness.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you. So, okay, now, I said there were two questions. There's a second question. We're probably not going to talk about this one because time is moving on. If you have discerned that you are in relationship with something or someone outside of yourself, and you know, some of us might call it God or Allah, Spirit of Life, whatever. My name is Eternal Spirit of Infinite Beginnings, co-created in every moment together with everything else that's happening. If you have discerned that you are in relationship with something outside yourself that somehow holds you, your grief, your confusion, your questions, your joys, your despair, my question is this: what, in reciprocity, that is, in mutual give and take, what are your responsibilities to that which holds you? Or to whom or with whom you feel you belong? Because relationships are never a one-way street, right? Otherwise, one of the wells would run dry. And hopefully that's not going to happen. So, I would ask you to take this question with you today in your heart, maybe in your family. You can talk about it when you get home. What or how do you give in return? How then shall we live our lives? Well, these are all theological and religious questions, moral and ethical questions, questions that knock at the door of our tender and so vulnerable, fragile, easily broken hearts. Let us hold them in community with kindness and compassion. And let's return to our opening, which I'll just read. We touch the floor to remember that wherever we bring our best self is holy ground. We reach for the sky to remember that we are part of a mystery much bigger than ourselves. We hold hands to remember that we need one another and are part of the human family, every single one of us. And we join our voices to remember that we have, each and every one of us, a gift to offer to the world and to use in making the world a better place. So now, this is sort of a pop quiz, I guess. Let us join our voices in the song that opened this section. And Christine's going to lead us in a minute. I'll remind you of the words: gathered here in the mystery of the hour, gathered here in one strong body, gathered here in the struggle and the power. Spirit, come near. Christine. Truly, we each have a gift to offer to the world, and we can use it in making the world a better place. May it be so. Amen, amen, and blessed be. And now we are going to invite our children back from the sanctuary, back from the cafe. We're going to invite them back in. Sally?